What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC 305. We have Israel Adesanya going against Dricus du Plessis. We are in Perth, Australia for a very fun pay-per-view card, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to this card from a fan perspective, especially. I'm loving these fights, loving the main event, especially with all the circumstances surrounding it. I feel like I'm a lot more hyped for the main event now than I was like a week or two ago, and I feel like a lot of people are that way after the press conference. I mean, these guys hate each other, so I think it's going to be a very fun main event. Fun main card as well. Co-main event, Steve Erceg, Kai France is going to be awesome. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Tuivasa is going to be as fun for as long as it lasts. And then some solid prelims as well. Some fights that shouldn't be sanctioned, which should equal some violence here. So yeah, before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It is always much appreciated. And be on the lookout for early content. So I'm heading to vacation today on Saturday, and I had to tape all the fights next week for UFC Vegas 96. So all those fights are taped already, and then I also taped all the fights for Dana White's Contender Series Week 2. So I'm going to be dropping my Dana White's Contender Series Week 2 video on Saturday, and then my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 96 on Sunday. Woke up at like 7 o'clock this morning. I'm so tired, but it needed to be done. So be on the lookout for some early content, which is always good to get out some early content there. But yeah, back to UFC 305. Going to be breaking down these fights from a betting perspective and a betting perspective only. If you guys want a further, more in-depth breakdown on why I'm picking who, I did post a full card breakdown and prediction video early in the week. But let's get to some bets. It's a light card for me this week. I think it's a great parlay card, to be honest. We've seen a lot of favorites come through lately, and this year we've seen a lot of favorites come through on pay-per-views as well, and I'm kind of thinking that's going to be the case here. But yeah, we're going to start off the card with Stuart Nicoll versus Jesus Aguilar. The one weight miss on the card was Jesus Aguilar missed weight by about a pound and a half. And yeah, Stuart Nicoll is going to be kind of the hometown guy here. I think that's very important. Whereas Jesus Aguilar had to make a long trip to Perth, Australia. And for me, it's kind of a tricky fight in a sense that, you know, Stuart Nicoll, he looks amazing. He looks fantastic outside the UFC, but he's fighting very low-level competition. But yeah, the guy can wrestle. He has a legit ground and pound, and then he's also a black belt in BJJ as well. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Stuart Nicoll. It's just this is going to be his toughest test to date. With that said, though, I'm not too high on Jesus Aguilar. This is a guy that has a 40% takedown defense. He jumps skilly, way too much. He'll end up on his back. He'll lose position. He'll put himself into bad positions. On the feet, he's going to be the better striker just by default, but he's not the best striker. He has a 62-inch reach. It's like, Stuart Nicoll, stylistically, I think it's a good matchup for him to go out there, and I think he can go out there and get a finish as well. So I like Stuart Nicoll. I think as a parlay piece, it's tough to say, this guy's a solid parlay piece at minus 230, making his debut, but I think stylistically it's a good matchup for him. But I'm taking him inside the distance here. I think it's going to be by submission, but he also has really good ground and pound as well. Jesus Aguilar, both of his losses do come by submission. So yeah, I think Nicoll's going to get multiple opportunities across 15 minutes to either lock in the sub or get a TKO victory here in Perth. So I like Stuart Nicoll, half a unit inside the distance, plus 220. Going small on it because, again, there are some question marks with this guy. Like, I'm not sure. He looks legit, but we'll see. Next, we got Song Kenan going against Ricky Glenn. So I have two parlays on this card. I'll probably add a third parlay, actually. And Song Kenan for me this week is a parlay piece, which may seem wild to say, but he's going against Ricky Glenn, who I just think is personally done. I think Ricky Glenn's washed, and he's only 35 years old, so he's not that old, but, I mean, geez, in fight years, he's probably, 200 years old. He's taken a ton of damage. He's been fighting for forever at this point. He's coming up to 170 for no reason whatsoever, other than probably, doesn't want to cut to 155 anymore. And yeah, Song Kenan, I just think he's the better fighter at this point of their careers. If this fight was a couple of years ago, maybe that's a different story. It's just Ricky Glenn, he just hasn't looked great in there. And it's not the fact that he's getting knocked out by Dober and Christos Giagos. I don't like seeing that, but that's not what's really wrong here. It's just how he's looking in those fights. He looks slow. He looks fragile. I mean, it's just not the best look. So I think Song Kenan goes out there and knocks him out. I'm just parlaying the money line, though, because we're not getting a ton of knockouts this summer. Even when fighters are getting knocked out, like Damon Jackson got TKO'd a million times, the ref's not stopping the fight. So I could see a scenario where Song Kenan goes out there and drops Ricky Glenn 50 times and gets a decision. So I'm just taking the Song Kenan money line as a parlay piece. We'll touch on the parlays towards the end, but I like Song Kenan to get it done. probably by knockout, but just to be safe, parlaying him up. Next, we got Tom Nolan going against Alex Reyes. I've not played anything yet on this fight, but money seems to be coming in on the over 1.5. If that does continue, I'll have no problem betting the under 1.5. Right now, the under 1.5 rounds is like minus 260, which, I'm thinking about this fight, and it's like, if these guys fought 10 times, how many times does Tom Nolan starch this guy in the first round? And to me, it's probably like 7, 8 times. He starches Alex Reyes, who shouldn't be fighting. Alex Reyes, who has 0 wins in like 7 years. Like, I don't get this matchup. The odds definitely do indicate that. For me, it's Tom Nolan by first round knockout. Right now, you can actually get Tom Nolan KO1 on some books at minus 113 best price, where other books it is like minus 300. So if you can get a good price on Tom Nolan KO and you want to play it. But laying minus money on a first round knockout prop is it is wild, but I think that's the most likely scenario. So nothing yet on this fight. If I do add something, I'll be posting it in the comments, and of course on DFSbythenumbers.com. You guys be the first to hear. But yeah, I'm gonna probably play some type of maybe parlay piece in this fight. Maybe a fight won't start round 3 or an under 1.5. But yeah, I think Nolan finishes him in the first round. Next, we got Jack Jenkins going against Herbert Burns. So I have 2 parlays right now, and both of those parlays are tied to the fight doesn't go to decision in the Jenkins-Burns fight. I love violence in this fight. I think it's pretty simple as Burns early or Jenkins late, but I also think Jenkins can finish Burns in the first round, to be honest. Like, I don't see Burns being able to eat a lot of those leg kicks. I can see him eating, 1 or 2, and then that's probably the fight. I think he's going to look for a way out. Burns' submission round 1 seems to be the talk of the town this week, and the reason that is because that's literally his money line, and it's plus 2,500, and I had to sprinkle it for a quarter unit, because if Burns is going to win this fight, it is going to be first round submission, and Jack Jenkins has been finished in all 3 of his losses, 2 coming by submission, and I'm looking through Burns' last 3 opponents, and they're tough matchups. Julio Arce, elite takedown defense, black belt in BJJ. Daniel Pineda, black belt in BJJ. And then there was somebody else that sparked him in the second as well, but I think he was a solid grappler as well. Can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, he's been getting knocked out, 3 times in a row, but this is a fight where he might actually be able to take down Jack Jenkins and put him into some bad spots here. So I think Burns sub 1. If you want to play the Burns side, that's how you do it. I think that's his money line. The Jack Jenkins, anything Jack Jenkins props, I would stay away from. They're the worst numbers I've ever seen in my life. They're worse than the Peyton Talbot numbers when he fought that one dude. I mean, these numbers are terrible. I think it's like round 2 plus 200 something. Round 3 is like maybe you're getting plus 400. Maybe it's like I would just stay away. For me, I'm just parlaying up the fight. Doesn't go decision. I also don't mind the under 2.5 as a parlay piece as well. So a lot of my night does come down to the Jack Jenkins Herbert Burns fight. Next, we got Luana Santos going against Casey O'Neill. I'm on the Casey O'Neill side. I played the round 3 decision prop for Casey O'Neill at plus 235 for a half a unit. I think if Casey O'Neill's winning this fight, it is probably by decision, actually, but I like getting that 3rd round in there just in case, because we have seen Santos slow down, and Casey O'Neill does have some late finishes in her career. But yeah, I like the O'Neill side. And it's weird. I wasn't expecting this much line movement on O'Neill. I mean, this line just completely crashed down, and I've seen a lot of people like parlaying up Santos and saying Santos is a lock and all that, and I think that there's just some recency bias here. Like, people are very high on Santos at this moment. She's been looking good. She's 3-0 in the UFC, 2 finishes, just finished Agapova not too long ago. That's fresh in everybody's minds. As far as Casey O'Neill, people were at one point like extremely high on her, way too high on her, and she's on a 2-fight skid against very good competition, and now people thinks O'Neill sucks, and Santos is the next big deal, and maybe she is the next big deal, but I think this fight's just very competitive. Santos coming in here on very short notice, traveling to Perth, Australia. I think that's certainly a factor. O'Neill, I love the volume, the toughness, the cardio as well. I think that early on Santos might be able to get takedowns, but as this fight goes on, I do favor Casey O'Neill. So taking the O'Neill round 3 decision, plus 235 for a half unit. And if you got in on the money line early, it was like plus 150. You did your job. The line has moved a ton. Same thing with this next fight. The line's moved quite a bit. Josh Kulibao, Ricardo Ramos. Kulibao now minus 145. Ramos is plus 125. I'm passing here because on one hand, I feel like skill for skill, this fight should be lined to pick him, if not outright favoring Ricardo Ramos. I think Ramos has a clear path to victory here with the wrestling, with the control. The problem is I don't want to bet on a quitter in Ricardo Ramos, and I think this guy has some quit. Now, this guy's been finished 5 times, multiple times by knockout in the UFC, multiple times by submission, back-to-back times for submission for that matter. I just don't trust him, traveling all the way to Perth, going against the hometown guy here in Josh Kulibao. It's like, I just can't quite get there, but I get it. I get people betting on Ricardo Ramos this week. I can't be one of those guys. I think the durability is heavily in favor of Kulibao. The heart probably in favor of Kulibao as well. So it's just going to be a fight where I stay away from it, but the pick is actually Ricardo Ramos. Next, we got Junior Tafa going against Walter Walker, which is, believe it or not, the featured prelim. And I'm not sure what the heck they're featuring here, because this fight is rough in my opinion. But it's a fight that everybody's piling in on and betting. Mostly on the Walker side. I've seen everybody on Walter Walker, and the line just not reflecting that at all. This line stayed at -130 for Tafa, +110 for Walker all week, and I have not seen many people at all on the Junior Tafa side. So for me, I'm not touching this fight. I would never even think about touching this fight. I think it's as simple, though, as Walker by decision or Tafa by knockout. I think those are the 2 most likely outcomes. And yeah, in theory, Walker does have a clear path. Junior Tafa has terrible takedown defense, no ground game, so Walker should have no problem taking this guy down. It's just, Walker gasses out in about 5 minutes. I think on the feet, he's in big trouble. I'm not touching this fight. It's binary. It's whoever wins this fight's going to look like a massive favorite. I don't want to get there. Next, we got Carlos Prates going against the Leech. We got Prates -370, the Leech +295. Yeah, nothing really sticking out here. I mean, I think this line's certainly wide, certainly disrespectful to the Leech. This is Prates taking up a short notice, or this is Prates taking a step up in competition here against the Leech, who's not been in there in about 2 years, coming off of a nasty spine injury. He's now 36 years old. So yeah, there's a lot of things going against the Leech, whereas with Prates, he's the younger fighter. He's training at Fighting Nerds. That gym has been about as hot as you can be at this point. People are very excited about this guy. So yeah, I like Prates to outright win the fight, but I mean, the line has certainly sailed, and he's -400 now in some books. So it's Prates for me, and I think Prates either late or by decision makes some sense. I think the over 1.5 makes some sense as well, but if it turns out the Leech is coming in here and he's completely washed at this point, then there could be some problems there. So I'm just not touching this fight, but the pick for sure has got to be Prates. Just the lines, it's just too wide. Next, we got Rozenstruik going against Tuivasa. Another fight that I'm looking forward to as a fan, but from a betting perspective, I just don't really see what to bet here, because it's like the fight doesn't go is -600. The under 1.5 is -200. Rozenstruik KO is -140. It's like, I don't love much here. Like, if anything, honestly, it's probably a dog or pass, on Tuivasa. I'm certainly not doing it. I think he loses, but at the end of the day, these guys are big heavyweights you're going to throw down, so it's like laying -220 on Rozenstruik is not really something I want to do, but in terms of a pick, I gotta pick Rozenstruik. I think he's just a more skilled fighter, and that always doesn't matter at heavyweight. We've seen time and time again where the more skilled fighter gets knocked out cold, but I gotta go with Rozenstruik here. Tuivasa on a 4-fight skid. I think it's 5 after this fight, and hopefully they give Tuivasa a winnable fight in his next fight. Moving on, we got Matthias Gamrot going against Dan Hooker. Yeah, for me, it's simple. It's Gamrot by decision, but the decision props -165. So I think they're all over it. I think if you're looking for a parlay piece, Gamrot's not the worst parlay piece in the world. I think he wins, but we could see a situation where it is a damage over control type fight, and maybe Hooker does land a couple big shots, maybe drops Gamrot, and Gamrot's able to go out there and get a million takedowns, but the judges are scoring the damage over the control. This is in Australia, which is going to favor Hooker, obviously. So yeah, I don't know. It's Gamrot by decision, but I'm not laying -165 on a decision prop. Next, we got Steve Erceg going against Kai Kara-France. I like Erceg here. I think he should be the favorite. I think he has more ways to win this fight. On the feet, I think the striking will be competitive. I think that Erceg has, much better durability. Erceg's never been finished, whereas Kai Kara-France has been finished 6 times. Kai Kara has been hurt in a lot of fights. He's been knocked out before. He's been subbed before. If this fight hits the mat, it heavily favors Steve Erceg. I think Erceg has all the grappling upside. So yeah, I think a lot of things going Steve Erceg's way. He's been the more active fighter as well. And then Kai Kara-France has also been dealing with concussion issues, apparently, which I don't really like to hear that. So yeah, I like Erceg here. I parlayed Erceg up on the money line. I think he's a solid parlay piece this week, or just a straight bet even, but I parlayed him up, and we'll talk about those parlays at the end. And I was also looking at Erceg inside the distance, but I can honestly see Erceg winning by any which method. I think it could be a decision. I think it could be a club and sub. I think it could be a knockout. So I just like the Erceg money line. And then we got Israel Adesanya going against Dricus du Plessis. Oh, man, this is a fight where I'm probably just going to stay away. I mean, we got minus 110 each way. So it's a tough fight for me, because if I didn't see the Adesanya-Sean Strickland fight, I'd be max betting Adesanya here. But the fact of the matter is I did see that fight, and I thought it was a pretty bad look. And as far as Dricus goes, I didn't like how he looked in the Strickland fight personally. I thought it was a very, very close fight. Could have went either way. I did score the fight for Strickland, but I don't know. I feel like, Dricus is going to go for takedowns here. I don't think they're going to come easy. Adesanya's takedown defense is very good. His get-up game is very good as well. And then on the feet, it's like Dricus has some power, but Adesanya is just a much, much better striker. So it really all comes down to where Adesanya's at. Like, if the Adesanya that fought Sean Strickland shows up, I think Dricus finishes him and makes it look easy. But if the Adesanya of old shows up, the best version of Adesanya, I think he probably makes it look easy. So it's like, I think a pick'em's about right. Too many question marks for me. What I don't hate, but I also don't love, but I don't hate, is the under 4.5. It's the same price as the money lines here. It's minus 110 to under 4.5, which I think the under 4.5, it covers the Dricus side. I think if Dricus is winning, it is by finish. And then also, we've seen Adesanya just be, very motivated, like extra motivation. He's out there very emotional at the press conference. I think he's going to come in here with a little more fire. I think this could be a war. So yeah, the under 4.5 would be probably my preferred spot, minus 110. But we've seen so many Izzy fights go the distance is the problem. So I think I'm going to pass on the main event, sit back and watch this one, but I don't know. The pick is Izzy for me. I just don't know which version is going to show up. All right, so there you guys have it. Quick recap. I have Steve Erceg money line parlayed with the Jack Jenkins Herbert Burns. Fight doesn't go to decision. 1.25 units on that at minus 113. And if you guys want a better price on these parlays, you can also do the under 2.5 rather than the fight doesn't go for the Jenkins Burns. What else we got? I have the Casey O'Neill round 3 decision, half a unit at plus 235. I have the Song Kanan money line parlayed with the fight doesn't go to decision and the Jenkins Burns fight that came out to minus 118 for 1.25 units. And then I have Stuart Nicoll inside the distance, half a unit plus 220. And then also be on the lookout on dfsbythenumbers.com, and also I'll pin it in the comments if I do add anything else, which I'm pretty certain I will. Something to do with the Tom Nolan Alex Reyes fight, whether it's the under 1.5 rounds in a parlay, whether it's the Nolan KO1, whether it's the fight won't start, something along the lines of something violent in the Tom Nolan Alex Reyes fight. I'll be adding it down in the comments. I will be adding something there. I'll be shocked if I don't, so we'll see. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like the video. Do appreciate all the likes. Subscribe to the channel as well, and leave me a comment. Could be positive, could be negative. Any comment does help, and it goes a long way as well. So yeah, guys, best of luck for UFC 305. Enjoy the card, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.